Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. A happy new year to all of our beloved viewers and subscribers. Welcome to our channel, everyone. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. I'm actually about to reveal a very surprising analysis from the state of Georgia that actually shows us just how broken the American unemployment benefit system is. In fact, an analysis of more than 2 million claims shows that black workers, African American workers who lost jobs during the pandemic were more likely to be denied help than white people. Yes, folks, this is the state of our country. This is the state of our economy. Black workers in Georgia who lost jobs during the pandemic were more likely than white ones to be denied unemployment benefits and suffered disproportionately when the state withdrew early from the temporary federal aid programs. And these conclusions, by the way, were drawn by a Bloomberg News analysis of more than 2 million claims. According to Bloomberg, they essentially point to a much larger and a much more disturbing picture of the unemployment benefit system in our country, which shows that black people suffered much more than white people. And folks, the story of how and why some workers were left behind reveals that there are long-standing structural inequalities in the United States. For many of the almost 317,000 black workers rejected for benefits in Georgia, the economic consequences were devastating. Let's show you this image on your screen, which shows you the Georgia labor force. 32% of the Georgia labor force is African American, 59% is white. And you can start to see that when people applied for regular unemployment benefits, you can start to see the impact gradually. In the year following the onset of the pandemic, 2.25 million people applied for unemployment benefits in the state of Georgia. The state's labor force has roughly twice as many white workers as black ones, as you can see, but more black workers filed for unemployment claims than white ones. So as you can see, even though the Georgia labor force was 32% black, 59% white, 40% of the applicants were black and 37% of the applicants for unemployment benefits were white. Think about that for a second. Now, once the applications were lodged, the Georgia Department of Labor rules on the validity of those applications. More than 800,000 applications, 41% of them from black workers were ruled invalid. Think about that for a second. 41% of applications from black workers were ruled invalid. 34% of applications from white workers were ruled valid. Now think about that for a second. 41% of applications from black workers were considered invalid and 34% of applications from white workers were considered invalid. On the other hand, look at the number of applications that were considered valid amongst both black and white workers. The numbers are almost identical, 40% for black workers and 39% for white workers. Now think about that. More applications from black workers were considered invalid. In fact, those with claims ruled invalid for regular unemployment could apply for special federal pandemic assistance known as the PUA program, but the state of Georgia withdrew from this program in June. So basically, in this system, no benefits are available to those who fall into this category, like contractors or gig workers. A lot of people were left behind. Now, workers who did pass the first hurdle were actually scrutinized further. Now, this is where the racial disparity was most evident in the state of Georgia. If the unemployment system mirrored the workforce, the number of white workers denied unemployment would be roughly twice the number of black workers. Why? Because 59% of the workforce in Georgia is white, 32% is black. But guess what? That didn't happen. Even after unemployment was approved. Take a look at this image on your screen. The blue section represents black workers. More black workers were denied than white workers, even though the black workers form the minority of the population. So, among Georgia workers that were denied regular state unemployment, 53% were black and 24% were white. Black workers whose employers paid into the system saw applications denied at more than twice the rate of white workers. This is pretty incredible if you really think about this, because this tells you that black workers really suffered as a direct result of the pandemic. Now, the Georgia Labor Department, as you might imagine, said in a statement that it cannot comment on individual cases, but it processes all claims for unemployment benefits, I quote, in accordance with applicable state and federal laws and regulations without regard to race, ethnicity, or gender. And I'm going to quote directly from Andrew Stetner, who's a senior fellow at the Century Foundation. He said, in these states where a large workforce is people of color, fewer and fewer people are getting benefits as more and more restrictions have been put into place that have made it harder for workers to get benefits in the traditional state system. In fact, what happened in Georgia, folks, is a sign of a system that since the beginning, by the way, the unemployment benefit system was established in the 1930s. Since the beginning, it has served black workers poorly, especially in southern states. Now, the US Department of Labor does not require states to report demographic data about workers who are denied unemployment. So this essentially is a blind spot. And this phenomenal reporting from Bloomberg actually shined a light on this subject. In fact, almost all 50 states refused to share such data when approached by Bloomberg earlier this year, although most acknowledged that they were gathering this information as part of the claims process. So in that sense, folks, this essentially becomes a bombshell because the data shows that black workers had a much harder time getting unemployment benefits than their white counterparts in a system that predated the pandemic. In fact, again, this system was set back in the 1930s and this system impacted millions of our fellow Americans, specifically in states like Georgia where the unemployment benefits were ended early. In fact, more than half of the 912,574 black applications for regular unemployment benefits, which is 53%, were ruled invalid because the department had no record of income or were denied for other reasons, compared with 42% of white applications, according to the data. In fact, the disparity was greater for black applicants who cleared the first hurdle for regular state benefits. They were denied at a rate of 21.6%. This is more than twice the rejection rate for white workers, which stood at 10.2%. Now, think about this for a second. This inequity is even more apparent when you take into consideration the racial composition of Georgia's labor workforce, like I pointed out at the start of this episode of Ignition Time. There are roughly twice as many white workers in Georgia as black ones, yet black workers were twice as likely to have their claims denied. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below, because there are broad inequities in the economic system in our country, specifically in states like Georgia. In fact, in Georgia, more than half of black households had an annual inflation-adjusted income below $50,000 in 2019, compared with 1/3 of white households. This means the poorest amongst us are the ones who are getting hit hardest by a system that was designed to help them in times of need. So the poorest amongst us are experiencing more rejections simply because that is what the data shows. And the low-income service jobs hit hardest in the pandemic in Georgia and across the US were disproportionately jobs held by black workers, Hispanic workers, and people of color. So that is where things stand, everybody. Let's show you this image on your screen that shows you the share of regular unemployment applicants denied by zip code. And you'll start to see on the left side, this is the share of regular unemployment benefits denied. And you'll start to see on this image, the share of regular unemployment applicants denied by zip code. Take a look at this. And also, let's take a look at the black population share by zip code. You'll start to see the astonishing similarity between this, and you'll start to see that areas where there are more black people living have higher regular unemployment benefit applicants who are actually denied. And this again is what the data is showing us, and this is horrifying. This is just unbelievable, but again, it is what the data is showing us. In fact, the federal pandemic unemployment assistance program did help close the racial gap. More than 1 million people who applied for regular unemployment benefits in Georgia had claims denied or otherwise ruled invalid. Let's take a look at this image again. 43.8% black, 31.9% white, 24.3% other. And only 35% of them applied for the federal aid, leaving more than 700,000 people who sought help who didn't receive any benefits at all. Of those who did apply to the federal program, 91% were approved, and the approval rate for the federal program, which is a different program, I'm not talking about state unemployment here, was roughly the same for black and white applicants. And this again is really a barrier for low-income workers, and this essentially is what keeps the poor struggling in the cycle of poverty that you see on your screen right now. This is a tragic situation, and this is a reality of our America. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Once again, a happy new year to our viewers and subscribers. I will always work hard on this channel to bring you the latest news and to bring you the truth wherever the truth might lead us. I appreciate you. Please click the like button. Please click subscribe. Please enable notifications. Also follow me on Twitter in the new year. My Twitter handle is ignition_time. That's ignition_time. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.